K-pop is probably the only genre of music that I know where the influx of music can sometimes be a bit overwhelming. Because of this, there are groups that come back 3 or more times a year, sometimes juggling Japanese, English, and Korean promotions, not to mention the innumerable amount of groups that are also touring at the same time while releasing music. If you're a multi-fan with many alt groups that you like to support, you might feel like you need a spreadsheet to keep track of which group is doing what. Considering how much music that releases in just 1 month alone, I would expect to come across a couple albums where the quality isn't as strong as it could be. However, it is very rare that I come across an album that I love every single song on. But today, we'll be discussing a handful of albums that I personally have never skipped a song on. Now, it's not that I think every album here is a masterpiece because, honestly, that's a very high bar to reach. It's more so that I love every album here for different reasons that relate to me personally. So yes, this is an opinion piece. And no, you do not have to agree with it. I am also very interested to see and hear about what albums you guys consider to be masterpieces, or just albums you like to listen to on repeat without skipping due to your own personal reasons. With that being said, let's get on with the video. I have to start with the concept queens themselves, i-dle, and state what I have been saying since this album released back in 2021. This album is flawless, conceptually, sonically, and of course lyrically. I Burn, their 4th mini album, is one of the most beautifully cohesive albums I've personally ever heard across every other genre of music that I listen to. To me, i-dle has always been a theatrical kind of group that knows about the importance to detail and intent. When it was first announced that this would be a winter album, I had no idea what that would entail. The first thing that comes to mind for me with the winter season is Christmas. And though I love me an occasional Oh Holy Night rendition, I was firmly hoping that we wouldn't be going down the route of some random K-pop holiday album. Then I remembered, wait a minute, this is i-dle. They aren't going to half-ass this. If winter is where they want to take us, then let me get my coat and boots. From the moment the teasers dropped, I was on board. With that first concept film and the dark atmospheric ambience we got from just looking at it, to Minnie's single spoken line,
will vanish.
I have never taken an emotional journey quite as intense as the one that this album put me through. Coming from someone who swears by the effective nature of music therapy, I Burn is an excellent spin on the usual breakup albums I'm used to hearing. The lyrical content here is poetic and beautifully somber, while also somehow managing to instill a strong sense of hope with themes of heartbreak, renewal, and grief. I was not expecting this kind of lyrical depth from a pop album, but I got it. I listen to pop music mostly for the bouncy instrumentals and just an overall feeling of rejuvenation and joy. And yet somehow i-dle managed to take that whole perception of mine and spin it on its head to gift me with one of my all-time favorite albums. And don't even get me started on the perfection that was Hwa. Now, I know some people believe the song to be a little bit lifeless, uneventful, and even downright boring. And that's your opinion, and I have no business trying to change it, but damn when I say how much inspiration I drew from just the opening chords of this song. Yeah, I could go on for hours about just this song. And don't even ask me about the B-sides, otherwise this video will end up being an hour. Anyway, I think I've babbled enough about this particular masterpiece, so let's move on.
Welcome to my world.
You might come to sense a theme as this list continues, so let me get this out of the way now. My favorite kind of music is the kind that elicits some sort of emotion from me. Whether it be due to how it sounds or the lyrical content, if a song can make me feel something, then it's done its job. That is what Aespa's album has done for me. Every song from track 1 to track 6 injected itself into my veins and has stayed there since release. From the soothingly eerie opener, Welcome to My World, to the upbeat sass of Spicy, to the softer mid-tempo vibe of Thirsty and the grimy ass-shaking club bops Salty and Sweet, this album did not come here to play with any of us, and I was here for it. I've stated before how complicated my relationship with Aespa's music previously was, and how glad I am that I bounced back from the negative preconceived notions I initially had for them as a group. And this album solidified that feeling for me. I love how every song here just seems to touch on some emotion. You and your feels about a significant other and just looking to vibe? You listen to Thirsty. You want to shake your ass? Well, Salty and Sweet got you. You're in the mood for some bad bitch energy? Spicy is here for you. Are you feeling a bit more emo than usual? Well, Welcome to My World and I'm Unhappy are sister bops ready to come and give you a big old hug. I don't know where SM was hiding this album during their hiatus before, but I'm glad they finally decided to unlock the studio door and let Aespa back inside. I'm fearless. When it comes to debut albums, Sserafim is one of the very few groups that nailed it with every single song. There are plenty of debut albums that hit right for me, but even in those albums, I can always point out at least one song that didn't completely vibe with me. But Fearless is not one of those albums. Some have said that the overall minimalism of their look is kind of boring, but I don't subscribe to that opinion. I am a firm believer that any concept can work if done right, and Sserafim has nailed it with one of the most unique takes on Girl Crush in a way that feels fresh to them. Because yes, Girl Crush can still work in the current K-pop climate if it's packaged correctly to suit the needs of the group that is being packaged for. From the high-energy industrial pop bop The Great Mermaid, to the sleeker-sounding title track Fearless, to the upbeat bass-heavy retro dance track Blue Flame, this album is a definite no-skip vibe for me that never misses, no matter what mood I'm in or what I'm doing at the time. Though their follow-ups Anti-Fragile and Unforgiven have delivered some iconic songs in their own right, Fearless is the mainstay album that I don't see ever leaving my playlist. I really want what I love like you get. While we're on the topic of debut albums, I need to discuss why Kiss of Life is in the running for joining my short list of alt groups. These ladies have only been around for a few months and already have managed to hijack my ears. Every song on their debut album delivered for me. Natty's smooth 90s R&B solo transported me back to the days of Destiny's Child and Mary J. Blige. Belle came out the gate swinging with the vocals up front in their debut title track, as well as in her own solo to remind us of how she earned that main vocalist title. Hano's cute but also very powerful vocals took me off guard, mainly because she seems so soft-spoken in their behind-the-scenes content, and I just wasn't expecting that kind of voice to come out of her. Julie's general swag as a rapper shined through quite well too. Separately, the members managed to hold their own, revealing to us how well they would all probably be able to pull off future solo careers. And then they came together like the Avengers in Bye Bye Neverland, with lyrics that seem to mourn the loss of childhood as one transitions into adulthood, a theme that I myself love hearing about in songs. Some people are saying that they seem to be going with a more cinematic approach for their concept that reminds a lot of them of the show Euphoria. And I can almost see that. The cinematography from their music videos looks as if it was heavily inspired by Euphoria, though I don't know if that was intentional or just coincidental. If that's what they're aiming for, then I would love to see if they stick with these story-based music videos for future comebacks in a way that allows for all of their songs to be interconnected. But I also know how extensive and detail-oriented a project like that would need to be for it to continue to work. So maybe this was something they chose to do specifically for their debut. Anyway, the members are highly talented individually across many areas in production and songwriting with Belle, dance with Natty, vocals with Hano, and rap with Julie. All of them have some of the best stage presence I've seen in a rookie group this year so far, and I wish them a bright future because I need to see what else they're capable of bringing to the table. Stacy has taken an interesting path with their music lately. Some of their titles have been hit or miss with the general public, as well as for K-pop stans themselves. But one thing I've always appreciated about them is their consistent releases of brighter, higher energy music that often toes the line between cute and high teen in a way that few other groups have managed to pull off. These ladies have dropped some of the most iconic bops for me personally. Run to You is a song that is habitually played in my household and car. When I think about their older music, nothing beats their mini album Stereotype for me. It's pure sugar for the ears. It's a total amalgamation of the airiest and most bubbly sweet sounds that I've ever heard come out of my speakers, and not one song is a miss for me. Starting with the song that got me interested in Stacy to begin with, Stereotype, to the more vocal, adorable ballads I'll Be There and Complex, to the dancier track Slow Down, there were some lyrically earnest bops on this album with some lines that actually made me tear up a bit. The entirety of I'll Be There sounded like a warm hug from an old friend. The album as a whole is a whirlwind of that quintessential sweeter sounding pop that Stacy does better than many other girl groups in the industry right now. And because of that, this album is a definite no skip ride for me. When it was first announced that Miyeon would be getting her solo, I knew that it would be good vocally. This woman could sing me the Declaration of Independence backwards and I would be happy. But when her solo actually dropped, I was entranced by the things she managed to do with her voice here. i-dle is rarely ever the kind of group that flexes soaring vocals across their title tracks, and it's often their B-sides that allow these particular talents to shine most. So I knew to expect Miyeon to blow my mind vocally, but she didn't hold back here. Thanks to that, we got beautiful ballads like Charging, a soaring power ballad with Taeyeon, a quirky cuter bop Softer, and the 50s doo-wop inspired Rose. Drive was also a serviceable title track that radiated positive energy, with lyrics that made me feel like I could do damn near anything. Miyeon covered pretty much every corner of the spectrum vocally, and I'm grateful to her for it. This album exuded spring vibes with the overall airiness of her delicate vocals and beautiful songs like Charging. This song is heaven to my ears that made me feel like I was levitating. No song here was skippable for me, and the first time I listened to it, I tried to find something to skip. When I heard the album sampler, I figured that Softly and Rose wouldn't do much for me. So when the songs came up as I was listening to the album, my finger was on the skip button, ready to press down. But the way Softly opened with this really eerie, folksy harp intro, it forced me to stop and hear it out just so I could see where it would go. Once that funky bass guitar kicked in, I knew I wasn't going anywhere. The same thing happened with Rose, a song that had a really sleepy sounding 50s doo-wop vibe. With this particular song not really being something that I ordinarily listen to, I was expecting to dislike it. Instead, I ended up swooning over this song for how precious she sounded here and how delicate these vocals were. I felt like I was being serenaded. The whole album was solid and Miyeon nailed it. Also, since this was her first turn at songwriting, I honestly can't wait to see if she decides to step further into that ring to pen any future songs, because I'd love to see what she would bring to any future solos, since this album was such an absolute mood. I can't end this list without mentioning Queen Taeyeon. Yes, many of her albums would fit in perfectly on this list, but the one that has stuck with me the longest is definitely Purpose. This album is sonically one of the best albums I've ever heard. Every chord and note here felt purposeful, like it needed to be there. The track list was cohesive, with each song sounding as though they all belonged together, with standout tracks being Love You Like Crazy, Wine, Gravity, Find Me, and Here I Am. As always, Taeyeon delivers the vocals and the emotions in a really poignant way that feels relatable to anyone who's ever experienced many of the situations and feelings described in the songs themselves. The overall aesthetic of this album is ethereal at times and lyrically introspective. This album has been on repeat during long car rides, and as beautiful white noise that I like to put on whenever I'm simply in the mood to just relax. Okay, y'all, that's it for me. Let me know what albums you guys feel this way about. I'm curious to see if our tastes align, and I'd also like to discover some new music for my own collection. Until next time, thanks for watching.